Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. We're on your United show today, Devil's Advocate. And today it's match day. It's Manchester United versus Leicester City. Massive game, FA Cup quarter-final. And today I'm joined by a whole host of Manchester United fans to have some pre-match chat with regards to today's game. So today, I'm going to be joined by a couple of United fans. We're going to be chatting kind of starting lineups, the AC Milan game the other night. And just other kind of thoughts we have about today's game versus Leicester City. Massive game in the FA Cup. Big team in Leicester City, though, a team who are flying in the FA Cup this season, and also in the Premier League. We're neck and neck fighting for that second place. So the massive game. Two very good teams, playing here today, and hopefully Manchester United with the result today. So look, first of all, I'm going to bring in the first guest here today. So just before I do that, it's going to see what comment already. Martial was a tip to be out, but it looks like Anthony Martial has just arrived with the squad. So that's positive in terms of having a striker in there today. So I'm going to bring in he joined me on Bits and Bobs. Watch along on Thursday. We went mental when we scored the goal against AC Milan. Though we're hyping up Paul Pogba before he came on, and if anyone's seen Bits and Bobs, watch along and see my reaction. I was wearing my Pogba jersey. I went absolutely nuts when he scored, and also this man who's coming in alongside did too. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the first guest here today. I'm bringing in Mr. Greg Chambers. Greg, how are you? How are you on this lovely Sunday afternoon?
Oh, absolutely brilliant. Sun shining. I've been out bowling cricket balls. For everyone who doesn't know, I play cricket. So I've been able to do that again. Sun shining. Man United are on later. So yeah, good Sunday so far.
That's absolutely great to hear. And yeah, I was texting you earlier on and you were telling me you're out bowling the cricket. And I was out running today, and I had to come home with the old foam roller. I was in bits when I came home. So it's nice to get out and do a bit of exercise, especially during before the game. So it's good to get pre-match anxiety kind of out of the way. But obviously looking at today's game, we were on Bits and Bobs watch along the other day on Thursday, and it was a massive game for us in the Europa League. To date, the biggest game for our season, considering it was a game for a trophy away at the San Siro, and it was very, very important in terms of Ollie's quest for his first trophy as Manchester United manager. Obviously, we watched it at the same time. We were chatting during the game, but obviously, give him time to reflect. What your overall thoughts kind of on the game at the San Siro?
It was a performance that was needed, I think, for the team more than anything. Sort of the period that we'd gone through of playing like that, and it was just really all that mattered was the result. It didn't matter how it was done. That was sort of evidence of the first half. I thought we were awful in the first half. But as soon as Pogba came on, there was just someone there that wanted to take the ball and just take control of the game. And it was just a necessary performance. It's what needed to be done. It's what, if we're going to win this tournament, we're going to have to grind out results. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were to get through against Granada, the two legs against either Ajax or Roma are like that as well, because they're two good sides also. So it was nice to see us be able to win a game like that, grinding it out. It was nice to see the manager. Ollie gets a lot of criticism for not making changes when things aren't working, and I think he should definitely get the praise for making that change, because every Man United fan saw that Pogba had to come on Thursday night, but Ollie was the one to make the change. He made the change. He put him on the left, obviously due to Rashford coming off, and he was brilliant. There was someone there to hold up the play and bring everyone else in, and I think Ollie's got to be credited for that. So it was necessary. It had to be done. So hopefully we'll have a bit of an easier run against Granada coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, many people talk about Ollie in terms of in-game management. They criticise him over solutions, and I've been critical about it myself on some occasions in terms of in-game management. But to be fair, to see him kind of make a substitution, seeing the impact Paul Pogba made, was quite good. And again, I'm just going to call it out. There's people who fans of this club say that Paul Pogba is overrated and Paul Pogba doesn't offer anything to this team. I think that's absolutely ludicrous. I think he's a fantastic footballer, and so you see the balance he gave to the team the minute he came on. You seen the fear that AC Milan had the minute he came on. They sat back for the vast majority of that second half. when you look at it in that respect, like you have to say, Paul Pogba is probably our most important midfield player at this moment in time.
Yeah.
Consider, the way the last kind of 6 weeks has gone in terms of our style of play, in terms of the way some of the games have panned out. And I strongly believe that. I tweeted out last week that in this run, and I think Paul Pogba is going to be our most crucial player. Like, obviously Bruno Fernandes is probably my favourite player at Manchester United. But when you actually consider Paul Pogba, consider his qualities in terms of help break teams down who sit back behind the ball, when you consider his hold-up play, when you consider, how versatile he is in terms of he can play in the 8, he can play out wide left as an inverted forward, he can play in number 10.
Yeah.
When you consider that, I think Paul Pogba is a player, that can definitely help us, especially with this run-in, when you look at how well we need to be playing, and when you consider the amount of teams that we have to play between now and the end of the season, who are fighting for it as well as top 4 and other trophies. So and look, absolutely, in terms of Granada as well, very happy at that draw. I think it's about time we got a favourable draw in a cup competition, considering the draws we've got all season, they haven't been favourable. So look, very happy. It's been a good week so far, and very good day for me as well. I won a United jersey and today, so I'm quite happy about that as well.
I think it was somewhat poetic as well for Pogba to score the goal on Thursday. I wrote an article last week for All For United talking about how this is probably the biggest week in the tenure of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as Man United manager. 2 cup competitions, and obviously talk of the new contract and things like that as well. I don't think we keep Pogba unless we win at least one of these competitions. I think we need to win 2 of them to keep him, but we need at least one to keep Pogba. And for Pogba to score the goal to put us through I think it was just showing that little bit of extra fight and that little bit of character. Like, no, this is what we need to build on, and he's not someone we should be looking to sort of throw out the door. Okay, we might get a bit of money for him, but he's that quality, and he's so good that he can turn games on his head. And we were obviously talking on Thursday. We're obviously talking on Thursday night as well about the awful commentary on BT Sport when they were talking about who'd have thought Paul Pogba would come on and make this much of a difference. It's like, well, Paul Pogba's a World Cup winner. Paul Pogba's one of the best midfielders in the world. So everyone thought he was going to make this, he could make this sort of impact. But it's a big week. I would love to see him start today, play 90 minutes today, and really dominate the game. And obviously due to that, looking at that comment, it looks like he's due to start with Van de Beek. Maybe that gives Van de Beek a bit more confidence as well, because
maybe gives Bruno a rest as well.
Yeah, it would be nice to see all 3 of them play, but I reckon Bruno probably gets a rest. Van de Beek needs something. He needs a performance to sort of hang his hat on this season, because he's not looked. I'm going to say he's looked. I don't know. It just maybe some Man United fans maybe slightly overrated that he was coming from a. Yeah, I've just saw the goal. I've just seen the goal. Make it 3 now. Coming from a league like the Eredivisie, like people were expecting him to just sort of come in and rip up trees and be amazing, but he's not been. So maybe Van de Beek, hopefully with that, if that's correct, we'll get a chance to shine a bit today and just say, like, this is what I'm made of. I'm willing to stay here and fight. And if the reports are true that he wants to leave because he's not willing to fight for a place, then that's fine as well. I'm not bothered. Yeah,
absolutely. Like when you look at there, like Arsenal is going to come to a couple of comments there. Like Arsenal losing 3-0 at the moment. Obviously, the league hangover, Joe is obviously has continued there. It looks like they have been. It looks like they're suffering from that at the moment. Obviously, Jesse Lingard, Manchester United loanee there with a goal and assist. Though again, people who don't rate Jesse Lingard. I'm not going to say any more.
Am I? A Premier League footballer. He's just maybe not for Man United. It's maybe a bit too much pressure for him.
Absolutely. We've a new subscriber here. Welcome, Taron, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff Podcast Army. Welcome. Thanks very much for subbing to the channel, and hope you're enjoying the Manchester United content. And Taron says, new sub here, watching your guys for the first time, recommended by Reece Russell. So high expectations, guys. Yeah, look, absolutely. We provide a lot of Manchester United content here on this channel, and we also provide, obviously, other clubs too. Like, we're not just United channel over here. We cover all things Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham Hotspur. I was about to say Liverpool, but no, we don't.
Oh God, no,
in that regard, we don't cover that dead club at all. But yeah, like, look, welcome to the channel, and I hope you do enjoy the content. Taryn also comes to the comments here. Taryn has also said, I would like Paul Pogba and left wing Rashford needs a rest. I absolutely agree. I think Rashford does need a rest. I think he should pull out with the England squad as well, to be quite honest. They're kind of dead rubber games against lower opposition like the San Marino and stuff like that. There's no need for Rashford to be playing them games. If Alex Ferguson was manager, you wouldn't see Rashford in that England squad, not a hope. We have a comment in here from Irish Reds. Welcome to the stream, and thanks very much for watching. And it says, do you think Pogba's attitude needs to change if he does stay at United? Do you know what? I'm going to address that, because I think with Paul Pogba, I think it's not so much himself, it's the agent. I think we can never question his application when he's on the pitch. He always tries to make things happen. I think Paul Pogba is a very good player, and sometimes he was played kind of out of position, and he was playing very defensive setups. But you can't question his application. He always tries to make things happen. And I think if he does sign a new contract, I think what has to happen from that point forward, I think the club have to lay down a kind of a marker and say, look, if you're signing this new contract, fair enough, we'll give you the money. We'll do what you want in that regard. But you just have to quieten your agent down. You have to tell Mino Raiola to shut his mouth. I think that's what the club need to do. And again, I don't want to harp back to it, but if Alex Ferguson was at the club, would Paul Pogba be there? I don't know, but you wouldn't see this kind of a fiasco in terms of Mino Raiola, in terms of what he does. But look, I think he needs to stay. And look, I'm going to come to another comment. I'm going to come to Andrew's comment there in a moment. Rich is in the house as well, and thanks very much for watching, Rich. And he says, Pogba's attitude has been very good recently, yesterday before he got injured. I absolutely agree. I said this there a couple of weeks ago on the show, that Paul Pogba, post Leipzig in the Champions League, was our best player. I know I love Bruno and that, but Paul Pogba was our best player. And you've seen the difference when he came into the team from Leipzig to the point we went top the league. He was our best player. So, hey, look, I absolutely agree in that regard. And Rich also says he'd be a big loss if he went. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't trust our board to replace him if that was the case in that regard. And then we've commented here from Andrew Hammond as well. Welcome to the stream, Andrew. Andrew says Arsenal are in the mud. Yeah, look.
They've just scored. It's 3-1.
3-1. Yeah, they scored 3-1 by
40 minutes.
They're still in the mud. I think they're a team.
I think they're going the right way. They're where we were when Ollie first took over. They've come from this horrible style of football that no one was really enjoying under Emery. Obviously, we had the same under Mourinho, and Arteta's job was just to make the team likeable again and to make them play better football. And they do play better football. They've still got the same awful players at the back, especially. But I think they're definitely going in the right direction. They're in a better place than someone like a Tottenham or someone like that, I would say, because the squad's quite young. You can see what Arteta's trying to do with that team as well, the way they're trying to play. And they just don't have the quality
But
players. But
and Jesse Lingard's living rent-free at club's head as well. So that's absolutely fantastic. And look, as Rich says there, don't judge him by his agent. That's something I always say. I think we all know who the problem is with Paul Pogba. It's not the player himself. It's the man who represents him. He's Mino Raiola is a parasite. I mean, that's the best word I can use. I think some call him that as well. And he's a parrot. So I absolutely agree.
I think Raiola's gone quiet over the last 8 to 10 weeks, but I think he was so loud because Pogba used to be his jewel in his crown, but now he's got Haaland, and Haaland's the one that everyone wants and everyone's talking about, and that's where I think that's maybe where Pogba benefits as well, is if Raiola has a big time, another big name, because obviously we know he's friends with Raiola and things like that, but in terms of Pogba's attitude post Leipzig is the Paul Pogba that you want to keep, and you want to sign. That's the Paul Pogba you want to sign up to a 4-year contract and give him everything he wants, because he's trying like that on the pitch. In terms of whether he turns around at the end of the season and goes, I don't want to be here anymore if we don't win anything, then I don't think any Man United fan can blame him.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that with him and Bruno. I think if the club don't win that and the club don't show ambition, then you'd call a player's mentality into question if they're not looking for more. Like, especially like when you look at Harry Kane at Spurs. Like, if you look at Harry Kane at Spurs, they're looking like they're not going to win anything. They're knocked out of the Europa League. Manchester City are heavy favourites to win that League Cup final. Like, if City win that, like Spurs of what they'd be looking at finishing 7th or 8th this season. Like, you'd have to say Kane would have to leave. Do you know? I think if he had ambition, that's what you have to do. But like, look again, is he another Alan Shearer that stays where where he's quiet? So yeah, exactly. Taron just said there as well in the comments in regards to Pogba. Taron says, I'm just going to try to bring the comment up there. Says, to be honest, there hasn't been an international break during 8 weeks, Greg. I'm expecting something to come during the international break. We'll see. And we'll see what happens. I think that, as Greg said, I think there'll be more Haaland talk over them, because that seems to be where Mino Raiola's really opened his mouth, because he'd rather probably Haaland go this summer, because obviously it'd be a bigger fee because the release clause is there next summer. And that's obviously with the Euros there, the market's always inflated as well. So I think that's probably where Raiola's head is at, especially in the pandemic. Who's going to pay the money for Pogba? Whereas like the likes of Real Madrid are looking for a striker. Do you know what I mean? They're looking for a striker. Do you know, PSG, will they come in for him? I don't know. Juventus, they're dead at the moment. Like, do you know, like they're
Pogba's injury concerns.
So like,
knocks his price down as well. Like the amount that Pogba's injured knocks him down quite a bit as well.
And if he's playing, like, when you look at the form he's on, like, will United be looking for a premium? United would be looking for a premium. They're looking for 100 million for him. So like,
if Declan Rice is 80 million or whatever. If Declan Rice is 80 million,
at least 100.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to bring the next Red into the show now at the moment. He's a weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast regular. Hasn't been on too much in a while, but we're going to bring him into the show there now, Mr. Jamie McKay. Jamie, how are you today? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. So, Jamie, just coming to you, obviously, with regards to today's game, massive game in the FA Cup. Huge implications for Manchester United's season in terms of, the chance at a trophy for Ollie. Leicester have their fair share of injuries coming into this game, like Maddison, Harvey Barnes being out, and obviously there's a few other players out from as well, like James, Justin, and co. Whereas Manchester United have a couple of injuries coming back. Obviously, Pogba came back Thursday. Donny van de Beek looks like he could be in the team today. Martial could be returning to the fold today as well. So, when you look at United's team today, what kind of, I know the lineups haven't been announced yet, but like, how are you feeling about the current squad, and kind of what type of lineup do you expect today?
You just caught me off guard there, to be honest with you. I was having a look on Twitter to see if I could get any updates on the team, but there was nothing going on. So, I'm expecting a strong team, mate. I think it's a massive game for Solskjaer. Like Greg was saying a minute ago there, massive week. Like, we've got a positive result against Milan. We move on in that competition, and for the fan base, I think we just need to see that next step. So that's going to be playing in the back of Ollie's mind with regards to his team selection. Obviously, you mentioned there, Leicester have got a couple of injuries, which some of their exciting players are out. So I'm expecting a strong lineup from us today, and I think we've got everything to lose. And if we don't win this game, it's just going to put pressure on Ollie that he's not going to want out his door. So there's going to be fans like ourselves asking questions if we can't get past Leicester. So I fully expect us to win today. If I'm going off of what I've been reading on Twitter, that Van de Beek's playing, that's a positive sign for me. I do think Bruno needs a rest. I do think Rashford needs a rest. Great to have Pogba back in the fold. Obviously, your boys were talking about him earlier. All positives for me. Expecting a really strong team, and I think we'll get the job done. I think it'll be a tricky game. Leicester are a good team. I like Brendan Rodgers as a manager, very technical, how his team likes to play, but they've got some big injuries, so I'm hoping we'll be able to capitalise on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Leicester are a very good team. Obviously, they have their injuries, but like Brendan Rodgers has that team very well coached, and like Then what they've done massively well this year is, like, even with the injuries they've had, they've maintained a place in the top 4. Like, they've never fell out of it. They've always been consistent enough to kind of stay where they are. Whereas we've seen with teams this season, not mentioning any names, but we all know who they are. They got a couple of injuries this season and they slipped right down the table. After a couple of injuries, where you look at Leicester, they've had a lot worse injury situation than that certain club that's. And let me check the Premier League table. I think they're like 8th or something, or 7th. Let me do a bit of research there. Just want to see exactly where they are, just so I can have a proper dig at them. This club is sitting 6th in the table, actually. My apologies. And they fell down the table. They were top of the table when they had this injury and a couple of injuries. But Leicester City have had a well worse injury record on them, and they've maintained their place in the top 4. So fair play to them. I think they're a very well coached team, Leicester, and I think you look at players like Vardy, Perez, Iheanacho, they'll all pose their own individual threats today. I think you look at Ndidi in midfield, very solid. I said today, obviously off camera, I said I'd love to see Paul Pogba have a performance like he did against Spurs in the FA Cup 3 seasons ago, where Moussa Dembele was one of the best midfielders in England, and Pogba bullied him that day. I'd like to see another performance like that. I think Paul Pogba has that in his locker to do a job on Wilfred Ndidi. But like you look at their team, it's still very formidable, even with the numerous first team injuries that Leicester have. Like, you have Fofana, centre back, who's been absolutely outstanding for him this season. Very good player. Like, Josai Unchu is also a very good centre back. You look at, obviously, Ricardo said he might be out. James Justin's been out, but they've had other players like Thomas who've slotted in and they've done very good work. And obviously, look, you have Kasper Schmeichel in goal, like, who's, look, again, we talked about this the other day. I think he's massively underrated. Like, he doesn't get as much plaudits as he should. Like, when you look at it, like, there's been like so many goalkeepers in England this season. When you look at kind of David De Gea, you look at Ederson, you look at Alisson, these are keepers who've got massive praise. Hugo Lloris. But when you look at Kasper Schmeichel, he's been up there. He's been very, very good. He's been consistent for Leicester since they won the league in 2016. So, like, when you look at that, you have to say, like, they've done massively well working within their means and within their budget. And, like, they're a big team. And, like, I said this on the show Friday night when we had Phil Brown and Chris from Leicester Till I Die. Like, you look at the so-called Big Six that the broadcasters label it. Leicester should be in that conversation because they won the league more recently than the 2 teams in that Big Six, Tottenham and Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? When we look at it, they've finished higher than Tottenham and Arsenal last season. Do you know, like, you have to look at it and you have to say Leicester City, do you know,
they won the league. Technically, they won the league more recently than us as well.
Yeah. More recently as well, but we've won the league more recently than Tottenham and Arsenal have, so we're still in that conversation for the Big Six. But what I'm saying is when there's 2 teams in the Big Six who haven't won a Premier League in a long time. Well, Tottenham technically have never won a Premier League. They won, like, the English Championship when it was, like, back years ago. And Arsenal haven't won a league since 2004. So, like, you have to look at that and say, what constitutes these teams to be considered a Big Six side when they're not doing anything domestically in the league for quite some time? I think
it's money. Player. Yeah, financially as well, like money-wise, they've got more money than the other clubs, and there's obviously big clubs in that league like Villa and Everton and things like that. Big clubs, but money they can't come close. Even Leicester, like, it takes hundreds of millions of pounds of investment to break that top 6. It took Tottenham a long time. It took Tottenham to sell Bale pretty much to break into that top 6, and then they had to form a whole team around the money they got from Bale. You need a lot of investment and a lot of consistency to sort of break into that top 6. Everton have always threatened to do it and then fallen off. Aston Villa threatened to do it in the past, stuff like that. But yeah, Leicester will hang up there for so long, but it takes that little extra bit more to break in. You need to be buying players for a serious amount of money and also selling players for that to sort of operate as one of those top 6 clubs. I think that's why they call it the Big Six now, not the top 6.
You look at what they've done. You look at what they've done since 2016. Like, when you consider that time frame, that's 5 years, right, since they've won the league. They haven't invested Like they've invested, right, but they haven't invested premium. Tottenham have invested premium in that time. They bought a lot of players. Arsenal have invested in that time, and they haven't won the league. They haven't even made so much as a title challenge in that time. Like, you have to say, like, where does the buck stop? Like, in terms of this, when, like, if you're to be considered a team in the top 6 in the league, surely you have to be more proactive in the league.
It isn't about value of how much clubs have got to spend, Keane. I think people miss the point sometimes with a club having a certain
I'm
budget.
talking about consistency in the league, Jamie. I'm talking about consistency in the league in terms of performance. When you consider performance, when you consider how much these clubs have spent, how haven't Leicester City been put in this bracket? Because they've won a title more recently than these two teams. They're finishing in the last 2 seasons.
They don't attract the top players.
And of course, they're going to again.
They don't attract the top players. They don't pay the top wages to get the top players in. They're never linked with anyone that's that's big and on, because they don't.
I'm not saying that. I'm not talking about investment. This you're twisting this wrong.
That's why
they're
not in the conversation. That's why, because the conversation isn't about league position. That's why it's the big 6, not the top 6. It used to be the top 4.
If I'm getting this right, Keane, you're trying to say, why are people not saying Leicester are a bigger club than Tottenham and Arsenal because of their current league position? I'm not calling them a bigger club.
I'm considering, in terms of like the best teams in the league, they're still considering Tottenham and Arsenal in the top 6 best teams in the league, when consistently the last 2 seasons they finished both below that. So, like, where does the buck stop there? Like, it's a broadcasting thing. When these teams have been, like, Leicester City have been more consistent than them 2 clubs. You have to say that.
On the head, mate. It's a broadcasting thing.
Yeah. It is. It's the broadcasting.
On the head, yeah. Arsenal and Tottenham are always going to be seen as that bigger club to Leicester. It doesn't matter if Leicester do better than them for the next 10 years. It's always going to be Arsenal and Tottenham should be doing better than Leicester, instead of having it the other way around and saying, nah, do you know what? Leicester are a better team than them. It's all reputation in English football. It doesn't matter if Arsenal consistently finished out the top 10 for the next 10 years. It'd still be a massive top 6 club. It's never viewed like that. I know exactly what you're saying. I totally agree with you, actually. I got it a little bit twisted on what you were meaning. But I thought you were trying to compare like their squads and stuff like that. But it's just a media culture, isn't it?
Do you know what, though? You mentioned squads there. If you look at Leicester City's squad compared to Arsenal and Tottenham squad, man for man, bar the exception of Harry Kane and Son, right? The majority of Leicester City's players would get into both lineups, like, all day.
I'd have Arsenal score over Leicester's. Any day of the week, I'd have Arsenal score over Leicester's.
It comes down to management again, don't it? Like, management of players. Would Brendan Rodgers do better than Arteta with that Arsenal team? I think he would.
Yeah, but
that's my personal opinion.
Yeah,
Brendan Rodgers is a better coach than Arteta.
Yeah, he's an elite coach, right? Rodgers is under. I said on Friday, I was in the comments on Friday, under sort of Klopp, and obviously Klopp and Pepper by far away, and then you've got the Ancelotti, Tuchel. Rodgers is in that conversation with those two. Rodgers is fantastic as a coach. He's getting the absolute limit out of that team. But the injuries they've had, he swapped James Justin over to left back. James Justin was just as good at left back.
And then got injured too.
Yeah, absolutely. He's getting the absolute limit out of that squad. With any other squad in that, if Brendan Rodgers was Arsenal manager, Arsenal would be in the top 4. Absolutely, their squad is good enough to be in the top 4 because they score the goals. They play enough decent football to do it. I would take Arsenal squad over Leicester's any day in life. I think there's areas of Leicester squad that's aging, and things like that as well. I think it'll be interesting next year to see if they have to replace Vardy. Vardy's scored 1 goal in his last 14 games. Is that sustainable over a 38-game season? If you've not got Iheanacho deciding that he wants to play football for his 3-month spell a season, like
they've got to start looking at replacing Vardy longer term anyway, though.
Like you've just mentioned it there, that Vardy has barely scored. Like you look at Perez, you've looked at like Iheanacho has chipped in, Harvey Barnes has chipped in. It's not like it's been a one-man team, in terms of what, like let's say, when United haven't scored goals this season, when Bruno Rashford haven't been on form, no one else really put the ball in the back of the net. But you look at Leicester, like Vardy hasn't scored, but Iheanacho has chipped in recently. Perez has chipped in. Barnes has chipped in.
I think that's more Rodgers than the players. I think that's more Rodgers' system letting them, because with Barnes, what he was doing is before Vardy got injured, he was coming in off the left a lot more. And then when Vardy got injured, they just played Barnes central. And Barnes central, he was brilliant. He was a great striker. I think that comes more to the manager knowing more about his players than what Ollie knows about Man United's players and where they can play and sort of their very limits. But I reckon if you were to swap managers around and give Brendan Rodgers our squad and Ollie Leicester's squad, we're not in the top four. Well, they're not in the top four. Sorry, with Ollie, we'd be where we are, but they wouldn't be in the top four with Ollie with that squad. Rodgers is the reason they're up there. He was that good at Celtic, and people didn't think he was going to be that good, but he was that
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
And came in and done exactly what he needed to do. They've got their everything is geared towards making sure that team is a better football team, which is why again they're successful. Man United is a lot more about being a business and an asset and a social media presence and things like that. But everything is geared towards making Leicester City a better football team and sort of getting the right players in to suit Brendan's system. But at the end of the day, they're still always going to be a selling team. Like you're still going to look at that.
They're a very well-run club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even look at them as a selling team. Anyone that comes in and buys them players now is going to have to pay a premium. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at, we paid 80 for Maguire. Like if anyone goes in for Ndidi this summer, they're going to have to pay north of 80 million. Though obviously you look at players like Fofana, they paid peanuts to him. Now all of a sudden, the way he's playing now, they're going to demand premium. You look at the likes of like James Justin, all these young players. This is what Leicester are going to do. They're going to charge clubs because of where they are in the league. If they do become one of them clubs, they'll be able to reinvest that money. They've done it with the Maguire 80 million.
It's what Dortmund do. It's what Ajax do.
Sustainable club.
Yeah, it's what Dortmund do. It's what Ajax do. Like,
it's a good model.
Doable, but it's a great model. But that's what they'll do. There will be a selling club. Like, you're not telling me Harvey Barnes and James Maddison are going to finish their career playing at Leicester. That's not going to happen. They're going to get big moves.
I agree.
Yeah. They can only attract certain calibers.
I'm just looking for the starting lineups there now. Nothing's come out at the moment. I know we've kind of gone sidetracked in terms of Leicester being the better club than the other two small London clubs. In that respect. But yeah, like apparently Jesse Lingard's playing very well here against Arsenal as well, which is
he is
great to see. In terms of like, I'm just waiting to see now if we can get the lineups, and the lineup is out. So I'm going to get Reece into the chat now, but I'm just going to announce the lineup here now. Dean Henderson in goal, Aaron Wan-Bissaka right back, Lindelof, Maguire two centre halves, Alex Telles left back. We've gone with a midfield two of Matic and Fred, Mason Greenwood on the right, Van de Beek the 10, Pogba on the left, and Martial up front. So when you look at that lineup, you can clearly see. You can clearly see what like Ollie's going for in terms from attack point. I think the front four is very good, and there's a lot of movement there. There's a lot of interchange and movement. The only kind of, I suppose, people are saying McTominay not playing. Like apparently he got injured in the warm up, so like I think that's understandable why Nemanja Matic is in. But you can look at the Matic thing for two ways. Like Matic will bring that physical presence to combat like Ndidi and Soyuncu and that from set pieces.
I don't think he does. I don't think he does that anymore. I think he drops too deep. I think 2 or 3 years ago that's what Matic does, but this season especially he's just dropped deep and he's become one of a three, and he just makes that hole even bigger because he's so scared of getting done like for
Greg,
pace
if we be honest about this though, like if we be honest with each other here, all three of us, and I'm going to bring Reece into the chat in a moment. With Scott McTominay injured, who else plays there? If you're giving Bruno a rest,
Pogba. Play Pogba there and play Diallo or James.
Yeah,
in a big game like this. In a big game like this, honestly, really, if you're in Ollie's shoes,
I'd probably play De Gea.
Like if you're in Ollie's shoes, you're in a big game like this. Experience is needed.
Yeah, but I
think Jamie, you're a manager. I'm going to pop this to you, Jamie. Right? You're a coach yourself, right? You're a big game at your club. Quarter-final, and you've an experienced player who's been there and done it, and your top midfielder is out, right, in Scott McTominay, right? But you know you have an experienced man on the bench who'll do a job. Are you going to play him, or are you going to play a young 19-year-old who's only played 2 or 3 first-team games, scored in one of them, but like it was against much lesser opposition that you're playing today? Do you play that young 9-year-old, or do you play the player with experience?
Me personally, I play the 19-year-old. If you're asking me from a personal point of view at the moment, because you've got to be brave sometimes, Keane. It's not always about playing it safe, mate.
Yeah.
I know exactly where you're coming from, and I'll explain why I think he's played Matic.
I think there's an agenda here.
There's not an agenda at all, mate. Not at all. McTominay would be playing. And Matic, I liked Matic. I still like Matic. I don't dislike him. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think his better days are past. There's definitely no agenda on my behalf. I don't know about Greg, if he just generally doesn't like him. But for me, no. I generally think he's good on the ball. I think he'll try and control the game a little bit more with the ball, because Leicester are a very attack-minded team. They will press high. So I feel like Matic's passing ability, although he keeps it very simple, is going to go out to the fullbacks. It's not going to necessarily be progressed from deep, which that's why I would have went with the younger boy and put a Pogba in, like Greg said a minute ago. Or if you want to put Donny in there. But let's just keep it relevant to the chat.
I think with Donny in the 10, it could mask Matic's flaws, because Donny drops deeper than what Bruno would. And Donny's a more player who controls the game more than Bruno would. Do you know?
Yeah.
So I think Donny
Matters what you're looking for.
Relying a lot on Pogba's work rate, though, if Donny drops deep, you're relying a lot on Pogba's work rate so he must be really confident in sort of how fit Pogba is, because if you're playing Matic and then you're relying on Donny sort of filling in there as well, because as you say, Donny does naturally drops deeper, than that you're relying on Pogba filling a lot of space there, especially on a counter attack or something like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think Matic 18 months ago even does that job perfectly, but just this season his performances have just not been. They've not even been par. They've just.
What I would say about that as well, Keane. Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to cut you, mate.
No, it's all right.
I've been watching Matic for years, Keane. I watched him for the best part of 4 or 5 years at Benfica. He was a fantastic defensive midfielder at Benfica. When he went to Chelsea, he come into the bigger picture in the Premier League. I always thought he was a brilliant player. When we signed him, I thought we'd got one of the best defensive midfielders in the country. And he done really well for us. It's just a case of he's getting older. His attributes are diminishing a little bit. He's not a bad player. I used to love watching him at Benfica. Every single game I watched him with. My best friend's a Benfica fan, I've told you before. So I've seen the best of Matic, and this definitely, he is declining. But that doesn't mean he's a bad player. There's certain matches where older players have to play. It happened with Carrick when he got older. And I ain't comparing Carrick to Matic, by the way. But from my point of view, I would have went with a different team if McTominay wasn't available. So turning it around a bit, why would you not play the 19-year-old, and why are you okay with Matic being in the team? Just to get your point of view, because I can't stress this enough either. I don't have an agenda against any Man U player. I support all of them. But for a team like Leicester that do press high up the pitch, I think you've got to be smart with the players you picked. Ollie knows him better than me, so he's picked him. But I just want to understand your thoughts on why you wouldn't necessarily go with the 19-year-old, and you're all right with Matic playing there.
I'll tell you why I'm all right with Matic playing there, number one, because you look at a system like 4-2-3-1, if you're playing that right. You play Pogba and Fred, where's the defensive stability to cover the two centre-backs? Maguire and Lindelof, we're going to push up high. They have plenty of pace up there with obviously the likes of Perez, with the likes of Vardy, with the likes of Iheanacho. And they're going to interchange movements. None of them are going to be naturally just stagnated in positions. So you need obviously defensive cover to slot in between them two centre halves to help him. Fred's not going to do that. Fred runs around the pitch and he's often caught out of position. He wins the ball back, but he's often caught out of position. I think with Rashford's injury, we've an enforced change in Pogba on the left. And he played well on the left against AC Milan. So why move him there? Why move him from there? And obviously, Bruno's out. And Bruno can play in the 8, but Bruno's out. He needs a rest. So in this situation,
is Bruno on the bench?
You play Pogba and Fred, against a team like Leicester, who have a very good midfield. Playing Pogba or Fred could be very detrimental, considering Fred's not a natural defensive midfield player. And we harp on about needing a natural defensive player in the team. With Scott McTominay and Fred, both of them plug gaps. But Fred and Pogba don't plug them gaps. And you're talking about a team that presses. Do you know...
I just don't think Matic will cope with the pace. I just think he could be outpaced, is my one worry. Is the pace of the game, the way this is played, especially we've seen Man United in the FA Cup. We saw it in the Liverpool game, obviously, that we try and start fast and teams, and it's not like a case that a team can just sort of accept the draw, accept what happens. It's one tie. You've got to go out and win it if you want to win the cup. So I just think Matic might. I don't know. He just seems a bit sometimes that he could be outpaced, and I think he might struggle. I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong, and I hope he is able to control that and obviously fill in for Fred. But I just fear with what Leicester have to offer and sort of how they move the ball, whether how Matic.
If anyone who's watching now, if you have the Leicester team, can you please send it in now? Because we need to see. We're talking about this. We actually need to see who Leicester have started. That's very, very
Bruno
important.
on the bench, or is he dropped? Is he not playing?
I'm just going to check there now. So United lineup is obviously in the Leicester lineup is Schmeichel, Fofana, Evans, Soyuncu, and Didi, Albrighton, Tielemans, Castagna, Perez, Iheanacho, Vardy. So it looks like they're going with 3 centre backs and with 2 wing backs. So like their midfield, they're playing like a 3-5-2. Looks like Perez is going to play in the 10, and Iheanacho and Vardy, are going to play as the 2 strikers up top. So like obviously Albrighton be right wing back. Castagna left wing back. So I'll throw that out to you right now. With them 2 progressive wing backs there, do you start Amad Diallo? Probably not.
I would start Daniel James. I would just start James, not Diallo. Sorry, but you've just going back to what you were saying there, Keane. That you've just nailed it on the head for me there. Why you're starting Matic, and that's fair enough, mate. Spot on. I get you thinking behind it now.
I can see your argument in terms of playing a young player, and obviously,
I'm not
like
saying
he's
it's
good.
the
He
wrong
played
pick.
I'm going to bring Reece into the show there now because obviously Reece has been waiting in the wings, and both lineups have just come out. So I'm going to bring Reece in terms of his perspective on the lineup. Reece, like you've heard both Leicester's and Manchester United's lineups, and what are your thoughts on both teams that have been picked?
I think the Leicester lineup, to be honest, sums up Brendan Rodgers in terms of tactical stability, how he likes to play his teams technically. So for me, I think that's Leicester to a T, so that's spot on, to be honest. As for United, I sort of see where Jamie and Greg are coming from in terms of playing Matic. But to be honest, I'm more in agreement with you, Keane. I'm more of the sense we should have a little bit more experience in the midfield. It is an FA Cup game. It's an important game. You realistically need more experience in these games, especially because it's a one-off tie, as it was mentioned before. It's a one-off tie, but then again, experience is more important than going with someone who has relatively little amount. And in this sense, Amad Diallo, I would not have tested him against Leicester. I don't think it's fair. I would probably just save him until after the international break. Use him against Brighton, to be honest, or maybe bring him off the bench, which is fine. James. Potentially, I would.
That's more logical. I think if you're going to play anyone on the wing, Daniel James would have been a shoo-in. He's done very well recently.
Yeah, I think that's the more logical choice.
Albrighton.
That would have been the more logical choice. If you're going with a winger, you go with Dan James. But I think going with the more experienced than Matic in defensive midfield works because we don't really have anybody. And to be honest, I don't want Pogba restricted as much. I mentioned it the other night on the show with Amy and Mark. I said I didn't mind him playing in the pivot role, but I wouldn't want him against Leicester the way they play midfield. Up against Ndidi, you don't really know how it's going to go. I'd rather him out wide and be more effective. Van de Beek starting was an interesting one. I thought he would be off the bench, to be honest. But I did say Telles would start at fullback. I think keeping him in was a smart decision. It gives Shaw the deserved rest. Going into international break, he needs it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he absolutely deserves it. And to be honest, I'm surprised Martial's playing as well. But this could be the game he finally starts scoring, potentially gets a run back in. Hopefully we'll see how it goes. But for me, good lineup. We'll see how it goes. I'm still thinking United are slightly stronger than Leicester, so I'm still expecting the scoreline I predicted the other day, which is 1-0.
So do you three boys, think that it's a good decision that Ahmed's not playing today?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
right. So here's one for you, and I'm just interested on your take here, right? Because this is my thinking. Because he's 18 years old, he's got fantastic talent. From what I've seen of him, he looks a great player. Obviously, he's played a lot for the under 23s. But if he's good enough to play against AC Milan, why is he not good enough to play against Leicester?
I don't think
the reason why he played
that.
against AC Milan is he was fucked with injury. Let's be honest. The reason he played against AC Milan is he was fucked with injury.
No,
if all our first
totally
team players are back like they are now, there's no way he plays.
I totally agree with you. I get that, and I know that's why he come on against AC Milan. But I thought he was brilliant against them. So when is the when is the right time to maybe bring him into a tougher game? Is it a case of maybe next season, or is it a case of
you got
you
Brighton
play him
after the
when you need
international
to?
break that have a lot
To
of
be honest, I
players
think
that are tired.
I think the best time for Diallo is you bring him off the bench today, give him the rest for the international break, let him recuperate, see if he goes with his country. I don't know if he's been called up or anything. I haven't got a clue. Come back, start him against Brighton, off the bench against Granada, start him against Tottenham. Do it like that, like one in, one out. Like don't use him consecutive. I would use him like that. I would use one in, one out, and see how it goes. Let him adjust sporadically. That's what I would do anyway.
Like you throw,
I think it's a
like
bit...
you look at situations, and we've signed big players, and we've thrown them to the wolves, and they haven't worked out, and manager has been criticised. Like people talked about Ollie in terms of team selections, and we talked about getting knocked out of the cups, and this is a big game in Ollie's season. Ollie picking a young fella and it doesn't work out. Ollie gets slaughtered. He says, why didn't he play a James? Why didn't he play this player? Why didn't he play that player? Why didn't he bring in a more experienced head? Like we've talked about Ollie needing experienced coaches around them in terms of team selection, in terms of in-game management, and in terms of coaching. So why would Ollie like go to inexperienced player when he's inexperienced coaches around them? Like it just doesn't make sense.
I'm not saying he should, Keane. I'm not saying I don't think it's a bad thing he isn't playing him, but I think Dan James is a little bit unfortunate to maybe not be playing today. I think he's done quite well recently, to be honest. But it comes back to the conversation of the pivot, don't it? Thinking about it now, when the teams come out, it maybe would have made more sense to put Pogba next to Matic if Matic is going to play. But I suppose if he's going with Fred, he's going with the legs and the energy, isn't he? But I just
higher up the pitch to do damage.
I haven't been on the show with you, Reece. Sorry, so I was just interested to see what you thought about.
Ahmed.
That was why I asked the question, mate.
No, sorry. I agree. He definitely does have talent, and obviously the price tag. You really want to see him fulfill it. Another reason I think he hasn't played as well is ours, like in terms of like the club, the social media standpoint is massive. Imagine he makes one mistake, and obviously Man United's fan base globally, one mistake, tenfold. That's him. He's had it, and it's just gonna spiral out of control. Yeah, it is a shame. I would rather like him be used sporadically, and then in certain games where I feel his pace and his intelligence, because he has got more intelligence than a certain amount of players in our squad. He can be more decisive. I think Brighton would be a perfect example of him like cutting in from the right hand side or even the left, to be honest, like wherever he is. He's just got a little bit of a decisive factor I think could be more effective, so we'll see.
Sweet.
He'll be on the second half.
Yeah, it's interesting to just get your points. Obviously, I haven't spoke to you much. I haven't been on the show with you either, Greg, I don't think, maybe one. So it's just good to mingle. I'm not trying to catch anyone out with questions. I just like the idea of getting the different standpoint of somebody else, because I obviously speak to Keane quite a lot, so I know his crack with the squad. But it's just nice. It's just good to get that sort of interaction and different thought process than maybe I've got. So it's that's what it was all about. Yeah. It wasn't to try and sort of.
I'm the same.
I can understand. I can understand like the thinking behind Diallo, because obviously traditional Manchester United way, like years ago, is like play you players have no fear. But you look at the pressure Ollie's under. He's under pressure like no other Manchester United manager has been post Sir Alex Ferguson. The Wolves are there for him. Like, and this is a massive game. If I was in Ollie's position, I'd play the more experienced player. I've coached myself. I've managed at clubs as well. Like, when it comes to a game like this, you have to pick players that you trust. Ollie hasn't had Diallo in the team that squad long enough to have the full trust that he'd have in the Nemanja Matic, who's done it for Ollie before. Yeah. I think that's where the line is drawn, really. Like, if again, as I say, you look at the way they've set up today, and look how high them fullbacks, them wing backs will be playing up. Like Diallo, would he have the discipline to track back? Where the same as, let's say, a Dan James would? I don't think so. You know, like, I think if you're going to start anyone between the two of them in a game like this, considering the way Leicester set up, you'd have to say Dan James would be more suited. But with Pogba higher up the pitch, maybe Leicester shit the bed now with a back five, and they sit back now. When you consider, you look at that front four, like Martial, Greenwood, Van de Beek, Pogba, like, you look at that front four now. Do Leicester be more expansive now when you consider, United's front four now? There's a lot of quality up there.
I think they'll still play this. I still think they'll play the same way.
Yeah, Rodgers isn't
that, Greg.
Yeah, Rodgers isn't the type of manager to sort of obviously he can set up his teams to sit back if that's what he's needed to do. But I imagine he would have had an idea in terms of what sort of Man United team was going to play. He would have thought based on Thursday that Pogba was going to play anyway. So you would have made this team thinking that Pogba was playing anyway. And I reckon they'll play the same way they were going to play, whether anyone was starting. They might give Van de Beek a little bit more. They might not have to double up so early in terms of like central midfield, as obviously a lot of teams have done with Bruno in the last few weeks, and they've shut him out by doubling up and making him come deep. But that might be slight naivety from them. They might not think Van de Beek has the quality. It'd be nice if he could show his quality in a Man United shirt and be able to just control the game a little bit more. But I think every time Van de Beek's come on, he's not really been playing with another sort of creative outlet. So maybe playing with Pogba up that high will help him quite a lot as well. Because I know there's been a lot of talk.
I think the interchange and movement between the two of them could be key, because both of them can play in the same position, like 10 and on the left. So this is what I'm saying, like with the quality that then, like, and even Greenwood, like the Greenwood's movement up front, like going across, like behind the striker is very, very good. And like Martial can switch positions with Greenwood too. So this is why I'm saying the fluidity of the front four that we have is very good. Like it just depends now whether Van de Beek can drop deep and get the ball from it, Fred, get a ball from the Matic. That's very, very important. Obviously,
like how Ollie does it as well. That's how Ollie seems to coach his team. It's always a few fluid.
Yeah.
I feel very, not a lot of people have talked about this, but this is just my point of view as well. I feel very safe, probably the most safe I've felt in a long time this season, with Henderson in goals as well.
Yeah.
I think he's got a real presence in that goal, and I don't know what it is with him. I really like him. Like I hope he stays number one. He's got an ignorance about him. I think you need that about Man United. He's got a belief in himself, and I just think with that stability, like Henderson brings that aura to that position and that freshness to that position, and I think that goes into Maguire and Lindelof as well, because quietly they've been very good recently. You know, no one's ever going to talk about them. Yeah, Victor Lindelof's been fantastic. Yeah, ever since
West Brom.
I was one of them. I wrote him off. I thought, you know what, Bailey should be playing. I was quite vocal, weren't I, Keane, on here, saying that Bailey needs to be playing. But Lindelof's been an absolute breath of fresh air, and that's the player we want to see. That's the player we bought from Benfica. He's come on a lot, but I do feel like that's because of Henderson as well, you know. So I feel like
Henderson knows how good he is. That's the difference. Henderson just knows he's that good, and he believes in himself 100%.
I think what convinced me that Henderson could be number one was when he went to Sheffield United for the first year in the Premier League. And then as it was approaching the end of the season, he was asked about going on loan. And he's like, no, I'm going to stay and fight for my place because I know I'm going to be the Man United number one. Like, he knows it in himself. If you have that confidence in yourself, it feeds through the team. And like you can see it from like Bruno Fernandes, like his own confidence that he can raise the bar. He raised the bar for performances. Henderson's got that.
One of my friends was at Man United when Dean Henderson was there, and when Sam Johnson was there. One of my friends I went primary school with, Gary Woods, was at Man United for a little while.
Oh, cool.
And I used to obviously chat with him quite a lot. Gary's one of my primary school friends. He plays for Aberdeen now. But and he just said Dean Henderson was a fantastic goalkeeper from very young. So I knew that there was going to be something there, and obviously he went out to Shrewsbury and he's had his apprenticeship out on loan, and then what you just said there, Reece nailed it on the head there, mate. He went out and he got that Premier League experience, and now it's a case of I don't know if I've got the right answer here, but I don't know whether De Gea can come back in now. Like, and I know that sounds ridiculous. I do feel bad though, Keane, like by saying that, because I feel like, you know what, since Ferguson's left, De Gea's arguably been, De Gea's kept us relevant some seasons because of his saves and that.
You know what I'll bring that back to though, Jamie? I'm in complete agreement with you. I kind of feel, I have that sentimental feeling towards David De Gea because he's been so good post Sir Alex Ferguson. But I'm gonna point it towards everyone here now, because I think we all have the same feeling. Gary Neville talked about this 18 months ago on Sky Sports. Manchester United, we can't be sentimental. We need the best in class. David De Gea is not the best in class anymore. He isn't. He's been great. No. I love him. Like, I love David De Gea, right? I love him. And like, I don't want anyone to twist that I have an agenda, because I've been saying it since the start of the season that Dean Henderson should be number one. I've been consistent with that all season on this channel. If you go back and watch every video, I'm saying it nearly every week. But I'm not. The room for being sentimental is over. Like that time is gone. Like if we are serious about challenging, we need the best in class. Dean Henderson is close to that level. And I'm going to just bring a point to you. Last season, Dean Henderson was at Sheffield United. He had more clean sheets than David De Gea, and he had twice the shots that David De Gea had to face.
Yeah.
I think that tells you everything you need to know.
I definitely think
that
he's brought a good stability to that position. It's the most scrutinised position in English football, and you do need a world-class goalkeeper. And I do feel like if he can get his distribution a little bit better, and that will come over time, like as in getting the ball into the feet and distributing it a little bit better. And I'm not saying he's bad at it, but I do think that's an area of a game a goalkeeper does need now to be good with his feet.
Did West Ham score again, guys?
No, Arsenal scores a West Ham on goal. 3-2.
Oh shit! Arsenal scored, did they?
Yeah, it's 3-2.
Oh shit! I seen Steve text into the group chat with a zip emoji. So I was thinking either one or two things have to happen here. So
it's about to be 3-3 because West Ham are parked.
I'm just going to get the match on beside me, the volume down because I don't want to be done for copyright. But look, I'm in agreement with all of you, like with Dean Henderson. I think, look, he's been commanding, and one thing he's allowed us, our centre backs do. I don't know if you've noticed it, but our centre backs have pushed up that bit higher, at least about 5 or 10 yards, nearly up the pitch when we have the ball. When Henderson's there, because Henderson comes out off his line. Something David De Gea through his whole period at Manchester United was never comfortable doing is coming off his line. But they know Dean Henderson will do that and put his body on the line. And we've seen that against Manchester City, most importantly. I think that was the game where you seen Dean Henderson, like you seen how high our backline played that day when we were on the ball. So I think, look, David De Gea, he'll always have a place in Manchester United fans' hearts. And I think when you consider his time at United, when you consider his saves in big games, you consider the season he won the league, you consider what he done or done post Sir Alex, I think it'd be fair to say he probably meets the category of a Manchester United legend, and especially in the Premier League era as well, in terms of top goalkeepers in that time. If you're talking about the Premier League era from 2010 to 2020, in terms of that decade, David De Gea was the best goalkeeper in that decade. Obviously Thibaut Courtois, you can make an argument, and Petr Cech as well. But if you actually look at it, you look at the moment, recency is a thing. We all play off recent emotions as fans, and you have to live in the now rather than live in a world 2 or 3 years ago. Living in that world, the world we have now, the world of recency, you have to say David De Gea's time as a top goalkeeper at the top level is over, and that's been the case since the 2018 World Cup. He's been destroyed since then, and I think you have to consider at the moment what Dean Henderson is doing. Go on, Jesse. What Dean Henderson is doing, for United, and you have to say, you have to have the best in class. And at the moment, I'll just reiterate, David De Gea, I don't believe is at that level anymore.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. There was a story going around, I think it was last year, that when Dean Henderson, it was his publicist, used to introduce himself to media as England's next number one. So that's the level of ego and sort of how good he knows he is. That's what his publicist introduced Dean as when they were meeting media and things like that. So yeah, Henderson's absolutely the best option for Man United going forward. Whether we can get rid of De Gea this season permanently or not will be another story. I think it'll probably be a loan deal and then some form of compensation to allow his next club to be able to get him for cheaper wages on a new contract. The same sort of similar thing as what happened with Sanchez. I don't think the wages are as big a deal as what most people are making out, because we managed to get rid of Sanchez and he was on more. So there'll always be a club, and there'll be clubs in Spain that want David De Gea, and I imagine he'll want to go back to Spain.
With all Black leaving Atletico, it could be a very kind of big shout that David De Gea goes back to Atletico. There's talk that he's
All Black's the best goalkeeper in the world for me.
Where would he go though?
PSG.
Why would you want to do that?
I think
would you take De Gea over Szczesny at Juventus?
Absolutely not.
No, Szczesny's class.
You
As
think
much as I like De Gea,
So
like
top
as much
teams
as I
have
like,
top goalkeepers. Like that's why I
Yeah.
think All Black, like it's so hard to get a goalkeeper to move, which is why I think De Gea would go to a club sort of like Valencia, Villarreal, Sevilla, someone like that, like just that second rate almost sort of club, because top clubs have good goalkeepers. That's one thing that's what a lot of clubs get early on.
I could see him in Italy, to be honest.
I just can't see where All Black would go. Maybe Bayern if they wanted to get rid of Neuer. I honestly don't know. Like
I'll throw that you
I
now,
think
guys.
Bayern are prepared for because they signed that Schalke goalkeeper Noble
Noble,
over the summer.
Noble, yeah.
He's their next number one, like the transition. I think De Gea could end up in
I'll
Italy.
throw this one at you guys in terms of this, right? Donnarumma's leaving AC Milan quite soon, right?
Yeah.
Like his contract is running down. It
They are
looks
in
like he
talks
could
at
be
the
going
moment,
to
but it
Chelsea.
looks like it.
But like, let's say
Yeah.
he does leave. AC Milan are a big club. David De Gea is still a decent keeper. Italy's an all right league. Do you know what I mean? I think that'd be a logical move for him. Like you could look at that, and obviously,
unless he
like
wants to be with his baby and things and be in Spain rather than having to, because right now he travels, and he's is it his son or daughter? I think it's his son. It's still in it's still in Spain, so
I think it'll either be Spain or Italy. That's where I see him ending up.
Yeah,
I'm in the same inkling. Yeah, but it depends really where he goes. He could end up at. I don't see him at any like the top three clubs like Atletico Madrid, Real Madrid, or Barcelona, because they've got Courtois, Ter Stegen, and they've got Oblak, who are at the moment top five
Three of the top
goalkeepers in the
five.
world.
Yeah,
They are. But it could end up at a Valencia because they've got Silesen, and he's not particularly a great goalkeeper, so he could slot into that Valencia team like it was nothing. He could go to Sevilla as well. Like he could end up anywhere.
Who scored yesterday?
If he's going to a team like Valencia, then we're paying the majority of his wages because they've got a few quid, but not De Gea's wages sort of things. That he would be the highest paid player in the league.
on that for Sanchez, though, anyway.
They've also got Peter Lim as an owner.
Yeah, I know, but he's spent very badly. The Valencia fans hate him, and apparently he's trying to settle with the club. So I don't know if that's true or not.
We look at like what we done
vulture.
for Sanchez in terms of wages, so like I think that wouldn't be a problem for the club. Like we probably subsidize maybe 60-70% of the wages for whoever gets him on loan. I think that's quite logical in that regard.
Here's a question for you, lads. Actually,
if he goes, right, just quickly, if he goes, who do you think United bring in as their number two then? Because I don't feel that.
You keep Romero.
You think they'll just keep him?
I think you could renew his contract for 2, like give him like a 2-year extension, or smart move is you promote Kovar from the youth team. Give him a chance as a backup goalkeeper.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Let him compete with Henderson. That's what I would do. Promote Kovar or extend Romero's contract. That's what I was actually going to ask you.
I haven't seen much of Pereira, like Joel Pereira. I haven't seen too much of him.
He was shite at Hearts, mate. That says it all.
Yeah, he's not great. But
sorry to cut you off.
Just to kind of
mate.
That's right. We pretty much asked the exact same question. That's what I was going to ask.
It just got me thinking. Sorry.
Do you what though? You both had the same question. You're both on the same wavelength. Obviously, look, it's a massive thing in our goalkeeping situation. I think we could still be having this conversation, within a year. But obviously, look, we've been on an hour, and myself and Greg have to be on a watch along in the next kind of couple of minutes as well. So we're going to wrap it up there. In terms of this, thanks very much to the panel for coming on, and thanks very much to everyone in the comments as well. Obviously, the banter about Arsenal was great, and we've talked about a lot really in the space of an hour. I wasn't even expecting to be on this long for the pre-match show, but we've had a couple of arguments on the show as well. I like a good debate, so that's great. I like a good debate. I did start it, but look, at the end of the day, this is the beauty of a pod, of this channel, is not everyone's going to have the same opinion, but this is where we talk it out. It's not like I did kind of probably react at that time saying it's an agenda, because obviously there's a lot of people people are saying Matic is done, but when you consider like obviously the lineups and stuff like that, when we broke it down after seeing both teams line up, like obviously I could see both sides of the argument.
I think the only player we've got is in terms of experience that you can consider done now, because he doesn't get a shoe in that team now, is Mata, and it's a shame. I think he's the only one you can just say is done.
He's going to. I reckon. Right, I'm calling it now before I end this pod. Do you see how him and David Silva were talking at the end of the Real Sociedad game after the first leg?
Yeah.
I reckon he could go there. It's very, very possible because he's got back.
That would be
Figure
phenomenal.
move.
Matt
That
and
would
David
actually
Silva
be
in midfield.
I'm just throwing out there. Real Sociedad could be his next move. I was going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
I'll throw up a little poll on the Weekly Armchair Twitter page. We all get it sharing. Do you think Matt at Real Sociedad would be a good move? I'll throw that poll out literally immediately after the show.
I think the only other club could be. I think the only other club he could go to if he wants to end his career, which frankly he deserves it anyway. Just let him go on a free. Valencia, back to where it started.
Yeah, former club. Yeah. That's another one. But I'd like to, honest to God, I'd love to see him and David Silva link up though. I'd love to see that now. That'd be because they're very good friends. They still stuff to offer, especially in La Liga. Because look, I think we can all say it right now, and I'm going to pick up the mic.
So bad.
La Liga is dead.
No.
You know, how funny would it be though if Real Sociedad did sign Juan Mata, and the next season you've got Mata and David Silva for a free kick, and it's to decide the league title. Sociedad beat Barcelona and win the league.
Mata takes it.
Matt and David
all
Silva.
Day.
Perfect.
But just before we go, and just so I wrap it up there, I'm going to get score predictions off all the lads. So we're going to start from bottom to top. I know we say start from top to bottom, but we're going to mix it up here today. So Reece, going to come to you first. Score prediction for today?
I'm going 1-0 Man United, and I'm going to go Maguire to score from the corner after 90 minutes. So I'm going to go into extra time. 1-0 Man United.
Pain.
My heart can't take that on a watch along.
No good.
I know.
No good.
Definitely not. Jamie, coming to you. You positive about today?
Yes, mate. I think we'll win 2-1 today.
2-1. Any
Marshall getting on. Yeah, Marshall's going to get on the score sheet today, and he's going to put in a clinic. I've got a good feeling.
That happens.
Because we will
Mr.
expect
McCoy,
he's
you know
going to
if
play
that
bad.
happens, I'm clipping you up. You know that happens, you're getting clipped up. You know that 100%. Gregory, my man, we're going to be seeing each other for the next 2 hours and a bit.
Yeah,
so
we'll see each other. I reckon 3-1. I think we're much stronger than Leicester, if I'm completely honest. I think we'll just, and with the way we've been playing in the FA Cup, I've been so impressed. How we play in the FA Cup is how I'm expecting us to play next year when we win. If we were to get players in, because that's Ollie playing his style of football that he wants to play. And all these people talk about he doesn't have tactics. Yeah, watch the FA Cup games; he's got tactics. That's more than just 4-2-3-1 and sort of a hit and hope. I reckon 3-1. I'm going to say Pogba brace.
So 3-1 Pogba brace. We've got a 1-0. We've got a 2-1. I'm in the same boat as Reece. I'm going to go 1-0 United. There's no Bruno Fernandes penalty today. But it's going to be in normal time. There's no normal time. And I'm going to stick with my man who I stuck with. And I've called these people out again. Mr. Paul Pogba getting on the score sheet here again today. And again, all you people who send this channel and other channels, you don't rate this guy. I have the evidence, guys. And don't worry. Don't worry, I know who all you are. And I've called you all out on social media. And shout out to Rick the Red, again, for that great analysis on Paul Pogba. That was absolutely fantastic. But on that,
I can't believe you're shouting at a guy who wants Welbeck as your team.
Everyone for watching. Do smash a like in the video, subscribe to the channel.
Greg, what's happened? Greg, what's happened?
Back next week.
Yes.
Okay, and we'll wrap it up there.
I do.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Take it easy, boys. Good to chat.
It was a pleasure.